This is Business Owners Drinking with Lawyer Humans. I'm your host, Shreya Lay, and over the next 10 minutes or so, I am going to be enjoying a tasty adult beverage with a fellow business owner. Thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here. I'm glad we could put it together on such a sort of overcast day.
Yeah, but the rain has held off for us.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I am here with David Chaumette. He is a man of many talents.
You're very kind.
He is an attorney and a business owner and an entrepreneur and a business coach.
Yes. And I'm not sure in which order those things go at the end of the day. I mean,
Half the time I don't know either.
Depends on what day it is.
Half the time I lie about the fact that I'm an attorney.
You know, it's funny because I'm doing everything I can not to practice these days. So I had a meeting with a new client over the weekend where I kept saying, I am not an attorney for you. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an attorney. And the third time through, I think they heard that. But at the same time, we learn a lot of things in law school that are so generally applicable inside and outside the legal sphere that you may not be an attorney per se, but you still use a lot of those same skills. Yeah, the challenge that, and one of the reasons why I'm really not practicing is that often the solutions that people need are broader than the ones that attorneys can provide. I mean, those of us who have the legal training know that you have an area of expertise and you present options, you don't make decisions.
Right.
Many times, how many times have I been told in the last 10 years, well, you're the attorney, tell me what to do. I'm like, that's not my job function. I got to explain that to you. And again, the same client this past weekend, well, my attorney won't let me do this. Well, that's not exactly what they're saying. They're probably giving you options A, B, and C for which there are consequences that vary.
Yeah.
And you have to pick which one is best for you. And part of my coaching to them in the business sense is, there's an old saying, and I don't know where it came from, that sergeants run the Army. I used to say lieutenants run the Army, and then I frequently corrected by Army people say, no, it's the sergeant. Okay, sergeants run the Army. You've got to present what you want, what the options, make the person give you a choice. And that's really what the attorney's doing. The attorney's coming in and saying, okay, we can go up the hill, we can go around the hill, we can go through the hill. Which one are we going to do? And that's really what I'm trying to get this particular client comfortable with. They can be the general. They can make the decisions.
Right. Exactly. Because I think when we're unsure, we often want somebody else to make those decisions for us.
Right.
And not have to think about it.
Well, I mean, and we all do that. I mean, one of the other speeches that I so frequently give to people is that you are your own biggest problem.
Yeah.
That whatever the impediment is that you're experiencing, you are at the core of that. And I mean, and look, this is not me living in some glass house. I know that I'm my own biggest problem, and I understand that. But that realization can help you in a lot of ways too.
Yeah. What motivated you to go out on your own? You first went out on your own with a law firm.
Right. I practiced in big law firms for about 15 years. And then in '08, I basically decided to go out on my own. I was partially motivated to do that because I had represented these huge companies on huge cases. And when I had a very good result, the next day it was as if nothing had happened. I want to do the victory lap for at least a couple of days, maybe a week or something. And it's not to belittle the victories or belittle the clients in any way whatsoever. But I found that what really got me excited was representing smaller businesses. It was where I resonated. I'm the son of
the impact.
Right, and I'm the son of immigrants. So a lot of immigrants come here and they start businesses. That's what they do. And so I went out on my own. I had one partner for about 2 years, and then I went out on my own. And I was still doing the litigation thing. I was still helping people. And I sort of had evolved into a de facto general counsel where I would take a lot of issues. But like what we were talking about before, I got to a point where I wanted to help them.
Yeah.
But the advice that I was allowed to give them technically as a lawyer couldn't be the advice. I couldn't do it in the legal sphere. I couldn't give them enough of the advice to really get them where they need to be. And then, candidly, on top of everything else, I had a divorce issue. I got sideways with the judge, and believe it or not, I got sentenced to 45 days in jail. Never served a day. But it was like, okay, this is a sign from up above that something needs to change.
There were all these roadblocks.
Right. And so I decided to, maybe you can call it a midlife crisis if you want, I decided to go and try something completely different. Mm-hmm. And so I've spent the last 18 months to 2 years, gosh, now it's almost 2.5 years now, taking equity positions in a lot of my former clients. Had them fire me as their lawyer and then bring me on to help either manage the back office or do sales or whatever. That started with an IT company back in 2013.
Yeah.
We just saw before we got here, my partner in that company. I've had to learn about what middleware is. I didn't even know what that was before.
I have no idea what that is.
Well, when you have a big company like Walmart and it sells something that IBM has created, those two big mainframes need to talk to each other. And the way they talk to each other is middleware.
Okay.
So that's what we do.
Interesting.
I own a piece of a sunglass company. I own a piece of a men's underwear company. Just a whole bunch of other things on top of providing these coaching services where I come in and try to help people run their businesses. And it is the kind of thing where I get excited when I get up in the morning, and and honestly, that it's made me a whole lot happier.
So, I have to ask you something about coaching.
Okay.
I have a lot of opinions about coaches, and I think that they provide a really useful service to people. But do you ever feel like there are some coaches out there that are not providing a useful service, that are involved in some sort of pyramid scheme?
Yeah, no, here's the way I think it works. I think that coaching is the professional version of sometimes being a realtor. There are some excellent realtors out there, people who know the market, know the business, know how to get the right things done for you. Then there are other people who couldn't do anything else, so they went and got a realtor's license.
Yeah.
If you're going to establish a relationship with a coach, you've got to, and I am not only a coach myself, but I have coaches.
Right.
So I'm on both sides of the equation. And you really need to spend the time evaluating the person that you're hiring, because they're going to need to really get to know you. And in order to provide any kind of value to you, you got to dive in. There are stages. Like, for example, one of the first things I did when I really wanted to get in this coaching sphere, I bought a program by Anthony Robbins, Don't Laugh. It was
I love it.
It was actually really good. He
Yeah.
was really good.
Yeah.
I learned a bunch of stuff that
I never thought I would say it. Like 5 years ago, I would never have said, "Oh yeah, Tony Robbins." All I knew about him was from like Donnie Darko or whatever.
And Shell Out.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, I'm up in the middle of the night, and I see the infomercials with him hanging out in Maui with Lisa Gibbons, and I'm like, come on, this is a bunch of hooey. I bought one of the programs, very economical, worked my way through 15 90-minute videos.
Okay.
A real-time investment.
Yeah.
And what I came out with was some real good tools. Mm-hmm. No one-on-one coaching per se,
right? But
I was able to watch these videos and learn from them, and then they have some conference calls that you participate in and whatnot, and it's very useful.
Yeah.
The thing that is bad about the coaching industry, if it's not one-on-one, is that it's highly dependent upon the coached. So if you don't invest in it, you can amass a whole bunch of programs that you pay a whole bunch of money for, and it doesn't do you any good.
And I've had coaches before, as you know, and I got a lot out of it, like a ton of personal development and growth that I would not have had if I hadn't invested in that.
Right.
So it's not that I don't believe in coaching. I do. It's sort of like when you really want to get serious about going to the gym, hiring a personal trainer accelerates, you reaching your goals. It's just, I encountered so many coaches that I was like, what are you doing?
Well,
and I am a skeptic.
But that's okay, because you're right to be skeptical. There are a couple of things that you should ask for. One, what are the metrics? What are the metrics of success?
Yeah.
My coach has said to me, look, if I'm working with you, I anticipate that your revenue will increase 5 to 7 times what you're paying me. So if you're paying me 10 grand, I need to be delivering 50 to 70 grand to you.
I like that ROI.
Okay?
Yeah.
And honestly, if you have a coach who's paying attention to you, who's helping you diagnose your issues, that shouldn't be hard to reach unless you're already starting at $2 million. Then it gets, and then it's a little bit different. But the other thing, and I think this is the downfall of some coaches, is that they don't have those defined metrics. So you work with me for a year, and what did I get from it? And that, that's as much as anything else. You got to define the expectations. You got to define where people are going to be, so that you can turn back and say, we started and we were doing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and now we're not doing any of those things. And now we're doing a bunch of things in a bunch of other directions.
I think my dad taught me that the definition of quality is meeting or exceeding expectations.
Right. Right. And that's and things that, just because it's hard to measure, one of my law school professors, Douglas Baird, who ended up being the dean of the law school after I left, great Star Trek references. If you talk about the Vulcan mind meld as he taught us contracts, magnificent. One of the things he would always say is, just because you can't measure something easily doesn't mean the value is zero. And so even if you can't exactly measure something, take the time to figure out, okay, what does the measurement kind of look like? So that you can kind of get a sense of where the value that you're providing is. A friend of mine, the guy who owns Brennan's, Alex Brennan Martin, he and I were in a class together years ago. He wrote this book called The Simple Truth. In that book, he talks about the fact that he is he is in a restaurant, but he doesn't sell food. He sells an experience. Because this fish that he serves might be available somewhere else down the street for another price. Well, one of the reasons that I ended up leaving the law is that I realized that I wasn't selling the law. No one was hiring me based upon the quality of brief that I wrote. I write a pretty good brief. I can write. But that's not why I was getting hired. I was getting hired because I was reducing people's stress. And so when I figured that out, I lead in almost every conversation with, I'm going to let you know when I think you should be stressed out. And unless I tell you to be really stressed out, chances are I don't think you should be stressed out, because it'll all work itself out. I mean, on my way to being a coach, I also served for a year as the president of my local Little League over here in Sugar Land. And that, as much as anything else I've done, has taught me how to deal with a bunch of things. I used to think while I was president of Little League, people complain about everything. Complain about why Johnny isn't playing third, why Johnny's batting seventh and not third. Maybe because Johnny sucks. Johnny's not going to be Alex Rodriguez. I mean, don't get me wrong.
This is the best situation for Johnny right
exactly.
here.
And Johnny doesn't care. As long as there's dessert at the end and an occasional game ball, Johnny's pretty happy. But when I would sit there and think, whenever somebody would complain, I would say to myself, your parents are alive and your kids are healthy. Because if that weren't the case, you would not be complaining about whatever you're complaining about. I mean, you just wouldn't. And that perspective in business is also very helpful. I mean, yes, there are times when bad things happen. I've had clients that have had to declare bankruptcy. I've had clients who had people work for them, have a car accident, and kill somebody. Those are bad days. I'm not trying to make light of that in any way, shape, or form. But if at the end of the day, part of what I try to do for my clients, my coaching clients, and even my legal clients back in the day, is to give them a context. Because at the end of the day, it's a long road, and there'll be ups and downs. And if it were all sunny every day, you're not
wouldn't
living.
Appreciate it.
Well, you're not living. You're not. I mean, okay. I don't know if I really want to say this on video, but I'm going to. When I was interviewing for law jobs 20 plus years ago as a student, one of the first interviews I had was with a guy who said he was undefeated in trials. He had never lost a trial. He was a 25-year lawyer. And at the time, I was like, damn, that's pretty impressive. But then, 20 years later, I thought to myself, and I won most of the trials that I think I lost 3 times and I won maybe 15 or 18. Anyway, I thought to myself, you don't lose trials if you settle when it's close. But the trials that I lost, I won some trials that I had no business winning. And I lost some trials that I was damn sure that I was going to clean that other person's clock. So my point in saying all this is, if you're not going out and being and trying, you're not living. And so if you're not stressed out about the stuff that's on the border, like, oh my God, is this going to work? Then you need to get out on the fringe.
I think I've been listening to a lot of podcasts lately, and I was listening to one, and the guy said that if every time you put something out into the world, you don't feel like you're walking down the street naked, then you haven't done it right.
Well, and let me tell you, okay, so I'm in the middle of this 100 Days of Gratitude stuff. When my business coach suggested I do that, I was like, okay, I went to school back east. I have some of the most sarcastic friends in the world, okay?
Yeah.
I post the first video, and the first 3 comments, I get this notice on my phone, so-and-so's commented on your video. I'm like, oh my God, it's the 3 most sarcastic people I've ever met. They were all highly complimentary. And what I took from that experience on day 1, I'm now on day 87, but on day 1, I took that when you put stuff out there are other people out there who A, want you to succeed.
Yeah.
And B, are going through the exact same thing. When I went through my divorce, when I went through 100 other horrible things that, I can at least put words to my divorce. There are the things I can barely speak of. But as I've gone through each of those, as I've had the courage to say, this is something that I've gone through, it resonates with people. And part of the reason that I've had the success that I've had with my coaching business thus far is that I've gone to people and said, you know what, I've screwed up. I screw up. And I'm the biggest problem with my success.
Yeah.
And that's probably true of you too. And we live in a society, we see it in the presidential elections, where one person makes one slight misstatement, changes their opinion, and all of a sudden they're burned at the stake.
I've never understood that. And I'm like, can't people grow and change their mind and just maybe they didn't know what they know now?
And do you really want somebody on your team or running the country or anywhere in between who doesn't grow? Who was locked in at 18 and that is who they are? Because let me tell you, if 22-year-old me walked in right now, you wouldn't like him.
Probably the same for me. I wouldn't be sitting here, having this conversation at 22.
Right.
So, yeah, I've changed so much.
Well, and I have a nuanced view.
Which I forgot to mention, we are in Sugarland Town Center.
We are.
In a beautiful courtyard, drinking a wonderful oaky Chardonnay. I don't know if that's your style at all.
I like Chardonnays. It's funny. I was told when I was 24 that as I got older, I would like reds more, and that is most certainly not the case. I've
been told that as well.
I think it's because we live in a warmer climate and we can drink white wines longer.
Yeah.
I have a real affinity for Australian and New Zealand whites.
Okay.
But whites across the board are generally what I would prefer. I'll drink a red if it's available.
I generally prefer reds, except for certain occasions. I like Chardonnays, but only when they are buttery. I don't tend to like the more tart ones. And then sometimes, it just goes with the food or with the weather.
But all of those rules about food have been thrown completely out the window.
They have.
I'm the king of, I'll have a porterhouse steak and a light Pinot Grigio.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that would make people in our parents' generation have a stroke in front of people. So.
But there have been times where, not on purpose, I get it. The whole wine pairing thing. I'll have, I was in San Francisco visiting my brother, and we were at a restaurant, and we got a chicken liver mousse with some sort of a jam on toast. It was like an appetizer on a little crostini or something. And I have no idea what I was drinking. It was a red wine, but the two of them together, I was like, this is amazing.
No, one of the things that I've really come to love over the last couple of years, a little strange story about me. For literally about 15 years, I had no real sense of smell and no sense of taste as a result, like a limited sense of taste.
Yeah.
For some strange reason, probably tied to my psyche and all the problems, all these things we were just talking about, it started to come back in the last 6-7 months. But even before that time, one of the things that I really like doing is going out for tasting menus. There's a place in Houston, a particular restaurant in Houston I really like, but I also have done this in New York and Las Vegas, a couple other places, where they bring you a different wine with every course.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to do that because it's not only the texture of the wine and the taste, but also how it pairs with the particular food that you're doing.
Definitely.
If you've never done that, that's something to do just as a special treat, you know. And it's just kind of a cool thing to do.
It definitely is.